Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. In the earlier sessions of marginal costing chapter, we discussed about CVP analysis and solved many problems related to that. Now let us continue the discussion on the applications of the marginal costing principles, particularly in two different areas. One is decision making, the other one is marginal costing versus absorption costing. Of course, the decision making is a very broad area, more of which will be at a very exhaustive level covered at final, but restricting it to the intermediate level possible questions will focus on some of the concepts related to decision making in the current session, and also we discuss about marginal costing versus absorption costing in the current session to complete this chapter. One of the concepts which is important in this decision making type of questions is cost indifference point. First of all, whenever we say decision making, we are looking at generally alternatives which are available. And if we take two alternatives and we want to see at which point or at which level of activity the total cost under those two alternatives is same, that is called cost indifference point. The name itself indicates at that point the total cost of each of those alternatives will be same, no difference, is indifference. But point to be noted also here is we are not talking about break-even point or something like that. Break-even point is something that is calculated when we have one particular scenario of cost structure, and at that cost structure of a company, what is the break-even point we can calculate. That is only one alternative. That is not decision-making purpose. That's only to know at which level of activity the organization will be able to cover its total costs without any profit or loss. That is a different thing. But cost indifference point is a different thing, wherein there are two alternatives, and at this cost indifference point, the total cost under those two alternatives is one and the same. In other words, we can say up to lower levels of activity, one method is suitable up to a particular point, and beyond that point, maybe another method is suitable. What is that point at which both methods are giving the same result? Result in the sense here, same total cost. That is what is cost indifference point. To put it in simple terms, if there are two alternatives A and B, at indifference point, the total cost of alternative A will be equal to the total cost of alternative B. That has to be calculated by using the formula differential fixed cost divided by differential variable cost per unit. Differential fixed cost divided by differential variable cost per unit. Differential fixed cost is nothing but the difference in the fixed cost between two alternatives. Differential variable cost means the difference in the variable cost per unit of two alternatives. If we use this formula, we can get the cost and difference point between two alternatives. So the main point once again to note here is two alternatives only. More than two, we cannot calculate cost and difference point, which is one point among multiple alternatives. That is not possible because of our, we can say, mathematical, arithmetical limitations of chartered accountancy. Since we have only maximum application of simultaneous equations, only two equations and two variables x and y, to that extent only we have a 2D, two-dimensional approach. 3D and all more complex equations involving many more variables, is not the level of mathematics that is required in chartered accountancy, so we don't have to worry about that. Simply two alternatives at a time we can test at a time, and at which level of activity both the alternatives will give the same total cost we can calculate by using this formula: differential fixed cost divided by differential variable cost per unit. Now let us apply this concept on one of the questions given in the essay material. The following are the cost data for three alternative ways of processing the clerical work for cases brought before some LC court system. So some cases are to be processed, some maybe work is required on them, typing, whatever, printing, etc. We don't need to worry about the real operations on the ground. There is no limit for those type of situations. But main point here is there are three alternatives which are given in this question. Can we calculate an indifference point for all the three at one time? Possibility is not there. We can only calculate indifference point between two alternatives at the same time. Fixed costs are given, definitely, and also variable cost per unit is also given under three different alternatives. All that we need to do is apply the formula and find out what is the cost and difference point between any two alternatives at the same time. So we can find out cost and difference point between alternative A and B, alternative B and C, alternative A and C also. These are the three possible combinations within which we can find out the cost indifference point. That's what is asked here. Calculate the cost and difference point and interpret your results. Of course, in the examination you have to write these things in detail and show the calculations in detail, but here we are just applying the formula directly so that we can get the answer. How to get cost and difference point? Difference in fixed cost divided by difference in variable cost per unit. For that, we first of all require what is the fixed cost in each alternative. Here naturally it is 15,000. Here it is 15 plus 5, 20 plus 25, 45,000. Here it is 1,25,000. That is the fixed cost total under each alternative. Then what is the variable cost per unit? What is the unit here? Each report, each case is a unit. So there might be some supplies like stationery, etc., and labor cost is there depending upon the number of hours of work that is required under each alternative. Naturally, manual alternative will have more variable cost per unit but less fixed cost, and automatic alternatives will have less variable cost per unit but more fixed cost in the form of equipment. That is all visible there. But once again, that is only for understanding purposes. Ultimately, what we need is total fixed cost and variable cost per unit. So what is the variable cost per unit here? That is 240. 40 plus 200. And what is the variable cost per unit in alternative B? That is 140. Let me write it here. 140. This is 240. This is 140, 80 plus 60, and 20 plus 20, 40. This is the variable cost per unit in this case, which is report or case, as the case may be. Now, we can find out the cost and difference point between each of the alternatives separately. So, difference between the fixed cost of alternatives A and B, 45,000 and 15,000. 45 minus 15, 30,000. So, 30,000 divided by difference in variable cost per unit of alternatives A and B is 100. 240 minus 140, 100. So, 300 cases is the indifference point between A and B alternatives. Same way between B and C. Difference in fixed cost is 125 minus 45, 80,000 divided by 140 minus 40 is 100. That means 800 cases is the indifference point between alternates B and C. Same way for alternatives A and C. Difference in fixed cost is 1,10,000 divided by difference in variable cost per unit, 240 minus 40, 200. 1,10,000 divided by 200, that will be 1,15,000, right? 125, sorry, minus 15,000. 1,10,000, correct. 1,10,000 divided by 240 minus 40, 200. That is 550. 1,10,000 divided by 200. That is 550 cases. That is the indifference point between these three different scenarios, but two combinations at the same time. That is the answer for first question. Calculate cost indifference point. Then interpret your results is the another requirement. So what can we interpret there? What is the level of activity up to which alternative is better? Up to 300 cases, naturally alternative A is better. Why? Because between A and B also there is a 300 indifference point, means up to 300 A is better, beyond 300 B is better. When beyond 300 B itself is better, we don't have to look for C at all. So beyond 300, comparing between A and B, B is already better. So up to 300 A is better. 300 to 800 cases B is better. Why? Because beyond 300 anyway B has already become better. But up to 800 C and B have an indifference point of 800, means beyond 800 only C is better than B. So beyond 300 B is better than A. Beyond 800 C is better than B. Naturally between 300 to 800 B is better. So beyond 800 only C is the better alternative. That is the conclusion and interpretation that we can draw. And we can test that also for understanding purposes. Don't need to test it in the exam. For understanding purposes, you can test it. Let us take any just number of cases and find out the total cost under all the three alternatives to see which alternative is better. Now look at this second question also. If the present case load is 600 cases and it is expected to go up to 850 cases in the near future, which method is most appropriate on cost considerations? Without calculation also we can tell. Already we have the numbers. Up to when the case load currently is 600 cases, B is better. If it goes up to 850 cases in the future, then C is better. But we can also prove it. So let us take three different number of cases or levels of activity. Less than 300, let us take some 250 cases, just as an imaginary number. And between 300 to 800, let us take the existing load, that is 600. And beyond 800, let us take 850, which is the possible scenario of increase in the load of cases. And at these levels, what is the total cost under all the three alternatives, that we can find out. Again, in the exam you can just do it in a little detailed manner, but let us just quickly do it here. At 250 level of activity, A alternative, what will be the total cost? So 250 into 240 variable cost plus 15,000 fixed cost. Total cost will be 75,000. At same 250, what will be the total cost for alternate B? 250 into 140, variable cost is here per unit only 140, plus 45,000 is the fixed cost. That means 80,000 is the cost of alternate B at that level of activity. At same 250, what will be the total cost for alternate C? So 250 into 40 plus 1,25,000, that comes to 1,35,000. Very huge cost for C. So which is better in this case? Naturally, alternate A is better. At this level, alternate A is better. As we already know, anything up to 300 cases, A is better because it has the lowest cost. Then, let us take 600, which is as given in the question, the current level of activity. Which will be better according to our already calculations done? B should be better. Let us test that. Same way, quickly. 600 into 240 plus 15,000, 1,59,000. 600 into 140 plus 45,000, 1,29,000. 600 into 40 plus 1,25,000. 1,49,000. So which is better? As we already know, B is better here. Here A was better. Here B is better at 600 because the level of activity is between 300 to 800. That is proven once again with the numbers on paper. Then, what if the level of activity goes to 850? Let us test once again. Naturally, C should be better, but let us prove it with numbers. 850 into 240 plus 15,000, total cost is 2,19,000. 850 into 140 plus 45,000, 1,64,000. 850 into 40 plus 1,25,000, 1,59,000. So at this level, the total cost is lowest in which alternative? C. Proven that all the three that we have earlier shown are correct. Up to 300 level of activity A, 300 to 800 B, more than 800 C. So simply, when there is a more automatic option, it will involve a higher fixed cost but lower variable cost per unit. That is only good when you can have a bigger level of activity of more than 800 cases. That is one of the reasons you can easily understand how the big companies can only go for more automation, because their level of activity is higher. That's what we popularly call as economies of scale. When the scale is higher, cost per unit will become lesser and lesser. That is how big gigantic companies can get benefit. The same benefit of sophisticated technology may not be available for smaller businesses. Why? Because their cost structure will not support that. Their level of activity at which they are operating will not support that. So that is the question on cost indifference point application at two different alternatives at a time. That kind of question can be expected also in the examinations. Now, did we answer the second question also? Yes, with the numbers we have answered it. Which method is more appropriate if the number of cases are going to go up to 850? Naturally, alternative C, that is fully automatic alternative. That's it. Now let us move on to another question. XY Limited makes two products X and Y whose respective fixed costs are F1 and F2. You are given that unit contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the unit contribution of X. Very relationship between contribution of Y and contribution of X is given. And the total of F1 and F2 is 1,50,000. So definitely this is an algebraic equation requirement is there here. We have to follow that carefully. F1 plus F2 is 1,50,000. Break-even point of X is 1800 units. That is one more information given. And 3000 units is the indifference point between X and Y. That is important information also. What is the indifference point? We should know that conceptually. Though we don't know, it is given in the bracket for convenience. That means X and Y make equal profits at 3000 unit volume. That's what it is now. Naturally, at that particular volume of 3000, their total cost will be same, which means they make equal profit. And the total cost is same. When we have two different types of products, we are talking about the profits are going to be same, considering their respective fixed costs. Naturally, there is no inventory build-up. Whatever is produced is actually sold. That is the other information. Find out the value of F1 and F2 and unit contribution of X and Y. That is the question here. So, this is also an application of cost and difference point, but in a little different way. Rather than giving numbers directly, a lot of data is given in variables type of denotions. So let us take whatever the data given first in an order. F1 plus F2. So what is F1? That is the fixed cost of X. F2 is the fixed cost of Y. F1 plus F2 is equal to 1,50,000. That is given. That is clear. So naturally, we can take F1 is equal to 1,50,000 minus F2. That is also same. Or F2 is equal to 1,50,000 minus F1, both are same. So that is the relationship between F1 and F2. That is given already in the question. But what is also given in the question is the contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the unit contribution of X. So whatever the contribution of X is, that we don't know. Let us take it as X only. So let X be the unit contribution of X and let Y be the unit contribution of Y. Okay, two products X and Y are there. X is the unit contribution of X, Y is the unit contribution of Y. Unit contribution means contribution per unit. But what is the relationship given there? Unit contribution of Y is 1/5 less than the unit contribution of X. So what is Y then? Whatever X minus 1/5 of X. It is 1/5 less than the unit contribution of X. That means X minus 1/5 of X. That is Y. That means 4/5 of X, isn't it? 4/5 of X. Or we can even say 0.8X. So that is one thing we have established. Another relationship. Y is equal to 0.8X. X is the unit contribution of product X. Y is equal to 0.8X. That is the relationship between contributions. Now, another relationship is also possible to be established from the data that is available. Break-even point of X is 1800 units. Break-even point in units, what is the formula first of all? 1800 is given as number. But what is the formula for break-even point in units? 1800 is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution per unit, isn't it? So what is the fixed cost of X? F1 divided by contribution per unit of product X is X. So 1800 is equal to F1 divided by X. In other words, F1 is equal to 1800X. That is one more thing that we can conclude from this. So 1800 is the break-even point of X, means F1 fixed cost of X divided by contribution per unit of X is X. So that we have taken. So F1 is equal to 1800X is one more relationship that we could draw. And F2 is equal to 1,50,000 minus F1. That also we know, already have seen. So let us substitute there. So F2 is equal to 1,50,000 minus F1. So 1,50,000 minus F1 we know, that is 1800X. So F1 is expressed in the form of X. F2 is also expressed in the form of X. Y is also expressed in the form of X. So everything we have brought into uniformity. But now, at 3000 units, it is indifference point. So what is indifference point? That means the point at which the profits are the same. Total cost is the same and profits are the same. That means at that level, profit from product X and product Y will be same. So what is profit? Profit is nothing but number of units multiplied with the contribution per unit minus fixed cost, isn't it? Number of units multiplied with contribution per unit will give total contribution minus fixed cost will give profit. But now the point is that is equal to number of units into contribution per unit of Y minus fixed cost of Y is F2. That's what it means. But now that we have all the things expressed as X, let us substitute these things carefully. So 3000X, F1 is what? We don't know, 1800X is equal to 3000Y. 3000Y. Y means what? 0.8X. So 3000 into 0.8X means 2400X. Minus of F2 we know already. Minus of 1,50,000. Minus of minus becomes plus. That is 1800X. So that's what is there. Now take all the numbers to other side, then you will get what is X. So 3000X minus 1800X minus 2400X minus 1800X that is minus 3000. That one way we can say, if you take all the things to the left hand side, minus 3000 x is equal to minus 1,50,000. Minus minus will go. How much will be x then? 1,50,000 divided by 3000. That means x is 50. That's what we got. X is 50. What is x? Originally what we have taken? Contribution per unit of product x. That we know. Once we know that, everything else can be found out. Because already we have the expressions as a relation with x. So what is y now? 0.8x. So y will be 0.8x means 40 rupees. Naturally. What is y? Contribution per unit of product y. Then what is F1? F1 is 1800x. So 1800 into 50. 90,000. So F1 is 90,000. Then what is F2? F2 is what? F2 is 1,50,000 minus F1. Simply. Minus F1 is 90,000. That means 60,000. F1 plus F2 is 1,50,000. We know that. So that's what is asked. We wanted F1, F2, x and y, contribution per unit of x product x and contribution per unit of product y. That is the final answer. F1 is 90,000, F2 is 60,000. Contribution per unit of x is 50 rupees and contribution per unit of y is 40 rupees. So such kind of questions can be given for 5 marks. Little algebraic application is there, but not that complicated. Once you understand the concept of break-even point, we need to know. Then we have to apply it. Concept of indifference point, we should know. Then we should apply it. Then by applying the relationships that are given in the question, we can solve this for finding out all the required data as asked in that question. That was another question in the ICI material. Now, moving on to another question which was given in one of the RTPs recently. Such type of questions can also be expected, but little different type of question, though it is not completely different, but a kind of new items are there. So we have to be always ready for them. Why I am giving this question is not that this question will come exactly, but such kind of questions also can be expected. Not necessarily always the same standard type of questions will be repeated. Marginal costing application is possible only when we know the concepts carefully. That is always the importance of concepts. If we only know the models of the problems, we will only be able to solve those questions or similar questions if they are asked in the exam. If we know the concepts, we can solve any question in the exam. That is the difference. So let us look at this question. A company manufactures 2 types of herbal products, A and B. Its budget shows profit figures after apportioning the fixed joint cost of 15 lakhs in the proportion of the number of units sold. And the budget for 2018 indicates like this: profit is given in rupees, selling price per unit is given, PV ratio percentage is also given. What is required is compute the best option among the following if the company expects that the number of units to be sold would be equal. So that is an important information. So the number of units sold would be equal. It is not going to be different. Then the joint fixed cost is allocated also naturally equally as far as current scenario is concerned. So first of all, we don't know the number of units that are now being sold. But later there are some other options, alternatives which we have to assess. A kind of decision making once again. Which of the alternatives is better we have to see. Now, before going to that, alternatives and all, what is the existing data? We should have 100% clarity on that. Then only the changes and all can be easily assessed. So according to the existing data, what is the profit is 1,50,000 of A and 30,000 of B. Selling price is given and fixed costs total is given. Even if you want to apportion it separately also, there is no problem, because it is apportioned anyway in equal proportions as given in the question. Number of units sold is equal, fixed cost is apportioned in the proportion of number of units sold. That means fixed cost is also apportioned equally. So now let us do some reverse kind of calculations. Then only we can identify what is the number of units that is existing level of activity, we can call it. So for convenience, let us take total also. First of all, what is the profit? 150 and 30. Okay, 1,50,000 A, 30,000 B. Total 1,50,000. Sorry, 1,80,000. That is the total profit currently. So what is contribution actually? Fixed cost plus profit is contribution. That we should know. And fixed costs we know already. Fixed costs as given, total was 15 lakhs. And that is equally distributed naturally. So 7,50,000, 7,50,000. So what is contribution now? 7,50,000 plus 1,50,000 is 9 lakhs. Total contribution that is for A, and 7,80,000 is the contribution total for B, and total of all these contributions will be naturally 16,80,000. That is the existing scenario. But can we find out contribution per unit? Yes. How? Selling price is given, PV ratio is given, so naturally contribution per unit you can find out. Existing scenario, this is all. 200 into 40% means 80 rupees is the contribution per unit, and 120 into 50% means half of that, that is 60 rupees is the contribution per unit. Don't total that, that will not tell us anything, that is per unit only. Then what is the number of units? Total contribution 9 lakhs, contribution per unit is 80. That means 11,250 is the number of units that are currently sold of product A. Then 7,80,000 divided by 60, 13,000 is the number of units that are sold of product B. So simply using the data that is given, fixed joint costs of 15 lakhs are apportioned in the basis of number of units sold, and the number of units sold is given that it would be equal, but they are not coming out to be equal. They are not coming out to be equal, so we cannot take this as the basis. According to the data given, ideally they should come out to be equal. So when we added the fixed cost equally on the basis of number of units sold, it is not coming out to be equal according to the data. So that doesn't match. So let us take another route to find out number of units of A and B separately. This is not working. So let us find out another route, because the data is not matching. What we can do, the question is like that. Now, since the number of units given is equal, let us take it as X. That is easy. So now let us say 80 rupees per unit is the contribution, right, for product A. 80 into X will be the total contribution of product A. 60 into X will be the total contribution of product B, isn't it? That will be equal to what? Total contribution for sure. That is 16,80,000. At least that we have already calculated. That number is useful now. So what is the total contribution? That we know, 16,80,000. So 140X is equal to 16,80,000. So naturally, how much will be the number of units X for each of the products is 12,000. This matches. So this data that is given, that fixed cost, joint cost, apportioning, all these things, not actually matching. We don't need to know about the apportionment of them and all. Just you say the company manufactures two types of herbal product A and B. Its budget shows a profit figures after the joint fixed cost of 15 lakhs. That's all. In proportion to the number of units sold and all is not matching. That doesn't make sense. So only total cost is given, fixed cost. We don't need to know about separately A and B according to this. If we did equal according to the question given, that number of units was not coming equally. So this is not appropriate. So better thing is what? We take the number of units, 12,000. That is much better. And that 12,000 units is equal for both A and B, at which this total profit can be definitely matched. So now, this is the existing scenario. So existing scenario is what? 12,000 units is the number of units. Once again, this apportionment of fixed cost is unnecessary data that is not matching. There is a mismatch in the question itself. that is wrong. Don't worry about the apportionment of fixed cost and all, that is irrelevant. Only total fixed cost of 15 lakhs is there. Fixed joint cost of 15 lakhs is there, enough. We don't care about how much for A or how much for B, because when we say fixed cost, we talk about the company as a whole. Total only is what matters. So there is no need of that additional unnecessary point of apportionment which was unnecessarily given. Forget about it. This question should be changed. If at all, it has to be matching with the data that is given. So simply total fixed cost is enough, that is 15 lakhs. Individually, we don't know how much is the fixed cost, no need to know also. But we know definitely individual contributions, because contribution per unit of A is 80 rupees, contribution per unit of B is 60 rupees. So according to that, total contribution of A and B put together is 140x, and X, the number of units of A and B both equal, is 12,000 units. This is the existing scenario as given in the question, only taking the appropriate data, removing and ignoring the inappropriate data. Now move on to the requirements. Due to the exchange in manufacturing process, whatever it is, the joint fixed cost would be reduced by 15%. Okay, total fixed cost, now it was 15 lakhs. 15 lakhs, it would be reduced by 15%, means it becomes 12 lakhs 75,000. So the new fixed cost is how much now? Revised, 12 lakhs 75,000. Okay, that is one information given in alternative 1, option 1 we can say. But variable costs would increase by 7.5%. Somebody who has written or framed this question has not taken enough care. It's just using variables. Variable cost is a better word to use. Variable cost, that too, whenever we say variable cost, that is per unit naturally. That would be increased by 7.5%, he says. That is option number 1. That is one scenario. Right? Variable cost existing how much per unit, that we can also see, because we know the contribution per unit and selling price anyway. So when you have selling price of 200, PV ratio of 40, naturally how much will be the variable cost per unit currently for product A? 60%. That means 120 for product A, variable cost per unit. This is common total. For product A and B, variable cost per unit currently it is 120 for A, right? And 60 for B. 60 for B. Now new variable cost will be how much? Add 7.5%. So 120 plus 7.5% is 129. New variable cost we can say. 60 plus 7.5% means 64.5. This is the new variable cost per unit. So what is that? We have to see whether this introduction of new process, whatever it is good or not. That we have to evaluate and tell. Right? For that purpose, let us first of all find out what is the existing total profit, which is given already. The total profit existing is 1,80,000. That's okay. We don't need to separately find out. Now we have to find out the profit under option 1. If this option is introduced, what will be the profit? Simple. The number of units is going to be same. That is not going to be different, right? So 12,000 into what will be the new contribution per unit now? Selling price will be same. There is no change. When it is not given, no change, no change. So 200 minus 129 now. Contribution per unit for A will be not 80. It goes down to 71. Same way for B, 12,000 number of units, and what will be the contribution per unit for B? Selling price 120 minus variable cost per unit now is 64.5. That is 55.5 will be the new contribution per unit. So let us take the total contribution first of all. So 55.5 into 12,000. Same way 71 into 12,000. Total contribution is 15 lakhs 18,000 contribution total. Deduct the new fixed cost, because fixed cost also got reduced, 12 lakhs 75,000 now. Which means what is going to be the new profit? 15 lakhs 18,000 minus 12 lakhs 75,000 is 2 lakh 43,000. And what is the existing profit? Already 1 lakh 80,000 total only. That means There is a increase in profit by 63,000. So is option 1 better? Yes, it is better than existing scenario. That is there. That is option number 1. That's what is asked to be evaluated. Now, option number 2. What is that? Price of A could be increased by 20%, as it is expected that the price elasticity of demand would be unity over the range of price. So the price elasticity of demand would be unity is the new thing that is mentioned here. What does it matter? What does it indicate? It indicates that the total revenue is going to be still the same. That is where you have to remember a little bit of economics from foundation. When the price elasticity of the products is 1, then the total revenue, or from the customer point of view, the total outlay will not change. That you have to remember. So now the total revenue will remain the same, means how much will that be? Original total revenue will be the same. Original total revenue was how much? 12,000 into 200. That was 24 lakhs. Even now also it will be same. But price got increased by 20%. So original price is how much for A? 200. Increased by 20% means it became 240. So new price for A is 240. That is there. So 240 is the new price. That means how many number of units will be sold now of A, since its price elasticity is unity, it is going to be 10,000 units. So this is the new number of units for A. But for B there is no change. Nothing given. So nothing there. Only for A. It is given that price is increased, but revenue is remaining to be same. So what happens now? At that revenue, at that price, what happens to the number of units and total profit? So let us understand that once again using the formula. 10,000 units. Now contribution per unit for A will be different, because the price is 240. Variable cost per unit is 120. Don't apply option 1 now. Option 1 has changed of 7.5%. That is different. We have to stick to the original data. 120 is the variable cost per unit, which means now contribution per unit is also 120. Plus, as far as B is concerned, same 12,000 units are sold and contribution per unit is still the same. That is, this is variable cost of 120. Yeah, correct. So 240 is the selling price, variable cost per unit is 120, means contribution per unit is 120. And for B, price has not changed. Price is still the same, that is 120 minus variable cost per unit 60, means continues to be 60 contribution per unit. So that is the total contribution we can find out. So 120 into 10,000, 12,000 into 60. Add both of them. 19 lakhs 20,000 is the total contribution. But what we want is not that. We want profit. So 19 lakhs 20,000 minus of existing fixed cost only. Total joint fixed cost how much as given in the question? 15 lakhs. So 19 lakhs 20,000 minus 15 lakhs will be 4 lakh 20,000 profit. Of course, this 4 lakh 20,000 is more than original option by 2 lakh 40,000. 180 was original. Now profit is much more. So is this good idea to increase the price of product A? Yes, it is good idea, because it is giving better profit. Though the number of units got reduced, revenue remained the same. Since revenue remained the same, there is no problem with that. It is a good idea to increase the price of product A, since it is resulting in profit of 2,40,000 rupees, more than the original profit of 1,80,000. So the total profit now under option 2 is 4,20,000. That is point number 2 or question number 2. Now look at the third question. This is a 10 marks question. So third question is simultaneous introduction of both the options, namely 1 and 2 above. So put together, if both are introduced at the same time, what will be the profit and what is the scenario? So this is second scenario already as we did. First scenario, first option, increase in profit of 63,000 happened. Second option, increase in profit of 2,40,000 happened. What if we introduce both at the same time? Now number of units will be same, 10,000, because under option 3 or 2, which is now coming to option 3, number of units of A is going to become 10,000. But contribution will be different. Selling price is 240, that is there. But here, since variable cost has changed from 120 to 129, contribution will not be 120, rather it will be only 111. Plus, here also 12,000 units, product B. But contribution per unit will be how much here? It will not be 60. It will not be 60. It will be only 55.5. 55.5 as earlier. So what is the total contribution now? Calculate that. 111 into 10,000 M plus 12,000 into 55.5 M plus. Total is 17 lakhs 76,000. Now fixed cost, be careful. Already we are looking at a changed scenario. So 12 lakhs 75,000 is the new fixed cost. So deduct 12 lakhs 75,000 because we are introducing both option 1 and 2 simultaneously. Number of units also changed for product A. Contribution per unit also changed for product A. Fixed cost in total has changed also for both of them together. So what is the profit now? 5 lakhs 1,000, which is definitely more than the original profit by 3 lakhs 21,000. So what is the best out of all the three, though it is not asked? This is the third option, that is best. Introduce both first and second options simultaneously so that there is an increase in the profit from the original possibility of 1,80,000 to 5 lakhs 1,000. So 17 lakhs 76,000 minus 12 lakhs 75,000. 5 lakhs 1,000 is the new profit, and that is the best option out of all the three. So this is a kind of decision making question only, wherein we have to evaluate the various alternatives and finally come out with best option, whatever is giving the better result to the organization in the form of profit in this case. That is one more type of question that can be expected. Now look at another question which is related to again decision making only, but in a different way. A, B, C are three similar plants under the same management who want them to be merged for better operations. The details are as under, all rupees in lakhs. So it's a kind of case related to merger. Such kind of questions were asked long back. So always possible. Oldest questions are always possible to be repeated also. So let us look at this. Plant A, plant B, plant C. But look at this, the percentage of capacities data given is not at the same type. So main point in this type of question is, first of all, we have to bring the data to uniformity. At 100%, how much it would be? Would be, not really. Really they may operate at less than 100%, but at 100%, how much that would have been, that we should first find out. Of course, we should always keep in mind fixed cost will remain constant irrespective of level of activity. Variable cost will change in line with level of activity. Basic principles everywhere we have to apply. Now compute the capacity of the merged plant for break even is asking. That is first thing. Second thing, compute the profit of the merged plant at 75% capacity, and also like that something else is asking. Now let us look at first of all, merged plant means what? Can we do these calculations just like that, adding up all the three? Answer is no. Why? Because they are not at uniform level of operations. One is at 100%, one is at 70%, one is at 50%. No, that will not be correct. Let us bring everything at 100%. A, B, C. Let us bring at 100% for all the three. Then merger has some meaning. Totals have some meaning. So A, B, C and merged plant. What will be the turnover? Let us call sales or turnover. Both are same. A, all rupees in lakhs. A 300, 100% only, so we take as it is. But B, at 70% it is 280, so we have to do it for 100%. So 280 into 100 by 70, how much would that be? That would be 400. C, as given in the question, at 50% it is 150, naturally at 100% it will be 300. So total merged plant will be 1000 lakhs sales. Then, just to show variable cost, once again, already A is given at 100%, so we don't need to vary anything. 200 is the variable cost. B, 210 is the variable cost in lakhs at 70%. So 210 into 100 by 70 will be naturally 300. And C, 75 is the variable cost at 50%. So at 100% it will be double. That means 150. So what is the total? 650 is the variable cost. So for computational purposes, let us take contribution. Contribution how much here? 100 lakhs, 100 lakhs, 150 lakhs. Total 350 lakhs is the contribution. Then deduct fixed cost. Given this will not change, don't change that. 70, 50, 62. That will not change. 70, 50, 62. Total 182. Then what you get is profit. So 30, 50, 88. That will be 168. Yeah. 80 plus 88, 168 is the profit for the merged plant if it operates at 100% capacity. But it is not going to operate. It is only for computational purposes. Now look at the questions. Compute the capacity of the merged plant for break even. Merged plant we want. Merged plant break even, how can you find out? Fixed cost divided by PV ratio. Simple. But what is PV ratio for the merged plant? 35%. Contribution by sales. So first of all, PV ratio for the merged plant you can calculate. For the merged plant, that is 35%. How do we know that? Because we already calculated contribution 350, sales 1000, so 35% is PV ratio. Total fixed cost how much for the merged plant? 182. So what is break even point? 182 divided by PV ratio. So 182 by 0.35. That will be 520 lakhs rupees is the break even point of merged plant. That's what is asked in first question. Second question. Compute the profit of the merged plant at 75% capacity. What we calculated was at 100% capacity. So what we need is at 75% capacity. So naturally sales will be how much? At 75% capacity? Only 750. Variable cost also will be 75% of 650. We don't need to do that separately. So let us directly take contribution. If contribution is 350 lakhs at 100%, how much will be the contribution at 75%? 350 into 75%, 262.5. Minus fixed cost is going to remain the same 182. So what is the profit? Answer for that question is 80.5 lakhs. That is the answer for second question. Okay. Then 80.5 lakhs. How? 350 into 75% minus 182. He is asked profit. So sales contribution is 350 lakhs at 100% capacity. How much it will be at 75% capacity? So 350 into 75%. Fixed cost will remain the same. So 182 if you deduct, you get profit at 75% capacity of the merged plant. Then compute the capacity utilization of the merged plant to earn a profit of 28 lakhs. That's what is the targeted profit. Once again, formula, we know that. Fixed cost plus desired profit divided by PV ratio. So fixed cost how much? 182. Desired profit how much? Target profit 28 lakhs. So 28, add it, divided by PV ratio of the merged plant, we already know, that is 35%. So 182 plus 28 divided by 0.35. That means 600 lakhs is the sales that is required if at all they want to have a profit of 28 lakhs in the merged plant. But that is not the question. What is the capacity utilization is asking. That is 60% because 100% capacity utilization of merged plant will result in a sale of 100 lakhs, 1000 lakhs. Now 600 lakhs means 60% capacity utilization has to be done in order to get a profit of 28 lakhs. That is the answer for third bit, 60% capacity utilization. Now, fourth bit, compute the percentage increase in selling price necessary to sustain an increase in the fixed overheads by 6% when the merged plant is working at a capacity to earn a profit of 28 lakhs. So basically how much sales is required to earn that profit when the fixed cost is increasing by 6%, that we can calculate. So fixed overheads originally are how much? 182. 182, if it is increased by 6%, it becomes 192.92, right? That is a fixed cost. But still they want to get the same profit of 28 lakhs, right? Divided by PV ratio. How much? Do we know the level of activity and all? We don't know. But whatever that PV ratio is, that should result in same revenue. PV ratio we don't know. Fixed cost increase, desired profit is same. PV ratio, the new one we don't know. We don't know that. Let us say that will be equal to same sales. Is it the same sales? No. Sales price increase necessary to sustain an increase in the fixed overheads by 6% when the merged plant is already working at a capacity to earn a profit of 28 lakhs is asking. So fixed overheads is increasing. Okay, we can just find out the sales, new sales that is required with the same PV ratio, that is possible. New sales that is required we can find out. Then increase in fixed cost, increase in selling price we can find out also. So 192.92 plus 28 divided by 0.35 means we need 631.2 lakhs sales rupees wise. But their number of units they are going to sell is same, which we don't know. That means how much increase should happen in selling price. So 631.2 minus 600 divided by 600 into 100. That means selling price should be increased by 5.2%. That is the answer. So with the same level of profit that is forecasted, which is 28 lakhs, but when the fixed overheads are increasing by 6%, how much selling prices have to be increased in order to maintain the same profit is asking. So if they want to maintain the same profit of 28 lakhs, then they have to increase the selling price by 5.2%. That's it. That is the answer for such type of questions related to merger or merged plant. Of course, only point here to note, very important thing is you have to uniformly make all the data, particularly related to sales and variable cost, at same percentage utilization, preferably 100% utilization. So that if we once have the data in front of us, we can calculate all the things. So here what was asked is break-even point of the merged plant, and what will be the profit if merged plant operates at 75% capacity, and what should be the capacity utilization if the merged plant wants to create a profit of 28 lakhs. What if the fixed cost increases? How much the selling price has to be increased? So if the fixed cost increases, then keeping or assuming the PV ratio is going to be the same, then the new revenue that will be required in order to get that much of profit of same 28 lakhs is 631.2, but the number of units are not increasing. What is the only option? When the number of units are not increasing, but you have to increase the revenue, how can you increase? Selling price can be only increased. That is to be done by 5.2%. Then only the same profit of 28 lakhs will be maintained. That's it. That is another type of question which can be expected also in the examinations related to merged plant. Now, let us move on to another question. On the basis of the following information, determine the product mix to give the highest profit if at least two products are supposed to be produced. So, minimum two products are supposed to be produced, and three types of products are possible to be produced. Raw material per unit in kilo requirement is given, machine hours per unit in hours is given, selling price per unit is given, and maximum limit of production is also given for all the three types of products. It's a product mix type of problem, but limiting factor is there. That is the issue. Limiting factor is there. 9,200 hours are available for production only, and 50,000 kgs of material is only available, and whatever the cost of that material or labor is also given in the question. First thing first, let us find out what is the contribution per each unit of these products X, Y and Z. Selling price is given, right? That is 500, 400 and 800. Then deduct variable cost. Within that, material cost and labor cost. Materials, how many units, how many kgs of material is required for each unit of X? 20 kgs. What is the cost of material? 20 rupees per kg. So 20 into 20, that comes to 400. Then labor cost will be machine hours per unit as given. So it is machine hours, let us take it as labor cost only. 20 rupees per hour. So 20 rupees per hour, 3 hours are required. So 3 into 20 rupees per hour, 60 rupees is the labor cost. Same way for product Y. 12 kilos into 20, 240. For Z, 30 into 20, 600. Labor cost, 3 into 20 per hour, 60 we have taken. 5 into 20 per hour, 100. Then 4 into 20 per hour, 80. So, what is the contribution per unit? So, here it is 40 and here it is 60, right? And here it is 120. Contribution per unit. Now the question is, since there are limiting factors, can we just say because that is giving a good contribution, will use all the resources for Z? That will not be correct. For that purpose, we need to calculate also the contribution per limiting factor. So, contribution per kg of raw material, contribution per hour also we should calculate, so that we can rank these products according to the available resources. Now, contribution per kg, how much we can calculate? X requires 20 kgs. Contribution per unit is 40 rupees. So 40 divided by 20, contribution per kg of each raw material is 2 rupees for product X. 60 divided by 12 means 5 rupees here, right? 60 by 12, that is 5 rupees. Then 120 by 30, that is 4 rupees. So, using the limited materials of only 50,000 kgs, Y is the best option, then Z, then X, according to materials being limiting factor. Now, what if the hours are limiting factor? For that, we need contribution per hour. So, 40 divided by 3, so around 13.33 is the contribution per hour that is generated by manufacturing product X, and 60 divided by 5, 12 rupees is the contribution per hour from product Y. Then 120 divided by 4 is 120 divided by 4 is 30 rupees. Okay, that is product Z. So the point is, with at least two products are produced, and there is a maximum limit of production also, and two types of limiting factors are there. One is 9,200 hours are only available, and maximum 50,000 kgs of raw material only is available. So from this, what is the best possible output, that we have to find out in the form of product mix when there are two limiting factors at the same time. So from this contribution per kg of material and contribution per hour, one thing is very clear: compared to product X, definitely Y is better only from material point of view, but not from labor point of view. Z is better in both respects compared to product X only. Compared to product X, Z is better in both the respects. So naturally, we can definitely give the first preference to product Z, since maximum number of hours available are only 9,200 hours, and number of kgs of material available is only 50,000 kgs. So Z is giving the maximum contribution per hour. So that is the choice one, we can say. Up to the maximum number of units that can be manufactured, Z can be exhausted. Why? Because there is a maximum limit on the number of units also. So 750 units of Z can be definitely taken as perfect choice as far as first preference is concerned. But how many kgs of material is exhausted because of that? 750 into 30. So 22,500 kilos of material, kgs this is gone for Z, and labor 4 into 750. 3,000 hours are gone. 3,000 hours are exhausted, used for product Z for sure. Now, remaining material is how much? Remaining labor is how much? That we can see. So remaining material is out of 50,000, 22,500 gone means 27,500 kgs of remaining material is there, and 6,200 hours of labor hours are there. This is kgs, this is hours. Now we have two options naturally. Z is the first priority, that is clear from both the fronts. Even contribution per kg of material is also high, contribution per hour also is high compared with X for sure. So definitely it is having higher contribution per hour compared with even Y also. Only thing is it has lesser contribution per kg of material compared with Y. So from the data we have to take a decision of Z to be produced maximum, that is 750 units, which exhausted 22,500 of kgs of material and 3,000 hours of labor. Remaining material and labor has to be used for either X or Y or both in a combination. So let us understand what will be the better option. Let us say, just for calculation purposes, choice wise, let us say if 27,500 kgs is given to Y, because it is giving more contribution per kg of material, how many units of Y can be manufactured? 2,291 units of Y can be manufactured, which is more than the limit of production 1,500. So we cannot manufacture that many units of Y, though it is giving good contribution. That is not possible because there is an upper limit on manufacturing of each unit, each type of product. 1,500 only can be manufactured. On the other side, 1,500 units of Y if we are manufacturing, let us say maximum, then machine hours required or labor hours required will be 7,500, but we don't have those many. We have only 6,200 hours. So compared to these two things, let us say this number of hours which are there can be used for the manufacturing of how many units of Y? So maximum 6200 only that are available. So 6200 divided by 5. That means 1240 units of Y can be only manufactured, which will once again waste the material, but doesn't matter. 1240 is the maximum number of units that can be manufactured with this combination of resources that is available. Though with some wastage of material will be there. 6200 divided by 5. That's it. Then 27,500 divided by 12 if we do, too many number will come, that is exceeding the limit, so that is not possible. Those many number of hours are also not available. Same way, with the same constraints, how many units of X can be manufactured, that also we can see. Same way, 27,500 divided by 20 if you take, 1375, which is possible within the limits of maximum production limit. And if 6,200 hours are all utilized for X, how many units can be manufactured? 2066. That means not possible. That is not possible because maximum production is only 1500. So if 1500 units of X can they be manufactured with the existing resources? 1500 into 20. Do we have that much of material? No. 27,500 divided by 20. That means only we can manufacture 1375 units of X. Not possible otherwise more than that. Because material is only that much available. 27,500 divided by 20. 1375 only can be manufactured. Now let us see which is the better option. Simple. We have chosen Y first, Z first, maximum capacity because it is giving better results compared to others. Then choice is between Y and X. So if 1240 units of Y are manufactured, 1240 into Y how much? 60 is the contribution per unit. That will give 74,400 rupees contribution. 74,400. But if 1375 units of X is manufactured, it gives only contribution of 55,000. So which is better now? Naturally 74,400. That means 1240 units of Y. So the final answer we can conclude to be like this. Finally, if because only two products are enough, 750 units of Z and 1240 units of Y. That is the final answer that we can get with the restrictions which are there already. Such type of questions for product mix type of situations can also be asked. There we have to apply naturally common sense and computations, and we need to find out contribution per limiting factor, and according to whichever is giving the best result, that should be given the first priority. If in this case contribution per kilo of material and contribution per hour of machine hours or labor hours is also higher for product Z, naturally that should be given the first priority. So 750 units of Z if we can manufacture, then 120 per unit is the contribution. So 90,000 plus 74,400, 1,64,400 is the total contribution that can be maximized within the resources which are restricted. That is the allocation of scarce resources using marginal costing principles. Product mix type of questions we can say. Now moving on to another small area of the difference between absorption costing and marginal costing. See, practically speaking, marginal costing as a method, there is no such thing. Marginal costing principles are useful. CVP analysis is useful for decision making purposes. So in reality, nobody uses or actually is allowed also to use marginal costing for accounting purposes as well. Normally when we say costing, that is absorption costing only, which we know. Nothing new, cost sheet type. Just reverse the cost sheet, it is absorption costing. How to calculate profit in absorption costing? Nothing new here. Sales we have to start with. From that we have to deduct the production costs. Production costs include what? Direct material cost, direct labor cost, variable manufacturing overhead, fixed manufacturing overhead also. This is the point to be noted. In normal considerations where we earlier did cost sheet also, did we segregate fixed and variable under normal absorption costing, which we do? No, we don't. For us, what matters is whether it is manufacturing, whether it is office and administration, or whether it is selling and distribution. That matters. That classification was only there for us, not fixed variable classification. So both variable manufacturing overhead and fixed manufacturing overhead will be considered as production cost. So the cost of production is the total of all these things. Simply speaking, material, labor and manufacturing overheads are cost. Production overheads are factory overheads or works overheads. Then we get cost of production, and as we know, opening stock of finished goods is added, closing stock of finished goods is deducted. Then if there is any under or over absorption of the fixed manufacturing overheads, that should be adjusted here also, if there is any, because fixed overheads are absorbed according to predetermined rates, but actual overheads could be different, and that under or over absorption can be adjusted. Then after that we have to do the adjustment or addition for other costs like office, administration costs, selling and distribution costs. If we add, we get total cost. Deduct this total cost from sales, we get the profit. This is normal, nothing new as far as absorption costing is concerned. Same thing as we know in cost sheet, but only one way we can say, just instead of taking costs then sales, we are taking sales first and then cost. Of course, costs are also taken and calculated in the same way. Finally, the total cost has to be reduced from sales. How we show it doesn't matter. Profit is calculated by reducing total cost from sales. That is absorption costing method. Now, what is the difference between this and marginal costing? If we calculate the profit using marginal costing method, only point is here. That is where you have to observe. What is the point there? There in the absorption costing, we included fixed manufacturing overheads also. That means that was also inventoryable cost. It was also part of the product cost. Whereas in case of marginal costing, we take only variable manufacturing costs as product costs. All fixed costs, including fixed manufacturing overheads, are taken as period costs in marginal costing. They are not product cost. In other words, the finished goods valuation that happens in marginal costing, if at all it happens, imaginary. In reality, nobody uses this. That's a different story. For us, questions will come, so we should be able to do both. Normal absorption costing, as we normally know. Marginal costing is only one difference here. It will not take fixed manufacturing overheads into consideration as part of the cost of goods produced. No, it will not. And that will not take naturally in the closing stock of finished goods also. So naturally what happens? Always the closing stock of finished goods in marginal costing will be per unit definitely valued lesser in the marginal costing when compared with absorption costing, because in absorption costing you include the fixed manufacturing overheads. In marginal costing you don't include fixed manufacturing overheads in the valuation of cost of goods produced or the closing stock of finished goods. Then we have cost of goods sold as usual. Then also have variable administration and selling and distribution overheads, so that we get total variable cost. And we know sales minus total variable cost is contribution, that is shown separately here. From the contribution, fixed costs are all shown here. Even production, admin, selling, distribution, all fixed costs are shown as period costs. These are all considered to be period costs, not product costs. And here what are considered as product costs? Only those product cost means which are inventoryable. Only direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overheads. That's it. That is how marginal costing calculations will be when compared with absorption costing. So to put it in a nutshell, profit under marginal costing will be different from profit under absorption costing because of changes in the valuation of stocks. Imagine if there are no stocks, then there will not be any difference. There will not be any difference. Profit will be same. Why? Because only value is changing, change is coming where? Here. In this stock valuation. Last year also there would be variation that will be resulted in the opening stock. This year also there will be variation that will be shown in the current year's closing stock of finished goods. And what is the variation? In marginal costing, we take only variable manufacturing overhead into consideration in addition to direct material and direct labor. In absorption costing, we take anyway direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, but we also take fixed manufacturing overhead, which means under normal absorption costing principles, which we normally follow, which we have been doing, we don't distinguish between variable and fixed manufacturing overheads at all. For us, manufacturing overheads matters. Fixed variable does not matter normally. But here in marginal costing, that matters. only variable manufacturing overhead is considered to be a product cost, fixed manufacturing overhead is considered to be a period cost. To that extent, there will be difference in the value of inventories. To that extent, there will be a difference in profit also. So simply the questions like this also can be asked here in the examinations. To calculate the profit as per marginal costing and as per absorption costing, and sometimes to even reconcile those profits. Such type of questions, 10 marks questions can be expected. This is a area usually lot of people leave, and definitely ICI will have an eye on this area, because it thinks if a question on this is asked, most of the students will not be able to do. It is not complicated, only that people are so reluctant to choose certain areas or leave some areas. Just like that, they think it is not a frequently asked question, so we can ignore it. Such type of thought process, if any of you have, you will be in problem. And if you face this problem for 10 marks and if you are not able to do that, that will be a shame, because it is a very simple and straightforward calculation. It will take time only for presentation, but calculations are all very simple. Simple cost sheet presentation in a reverse manner, and taking one common point of whether to include variable manufacturing overhead in the cost of production or not. Yes, it is absorption costing. No, it is marginal costing. That's all. Remaining is all presentation. You can use this format for presentation purposes. Same way it can be done in the examinations. Now let us look at this question which was given in the past examinations earlier. 5-Star Limited provides you the following information. Normal capacity is 2,40,000 units. Opening stock is 52,000 units. Units produced is 2,34,000 units. And units sold is 2,40,000 units. So definitely we can find out closing stock in number of units. 52,000 plus 234 minus 240. Closing stock units will be how much? 46,000 units. That is first thing. We can easily find out from the data that is available. Units, that is. Then direct material cost per unit is given, direct labor cost per unit is given, variable manufacturing overhead per unit is given, fixed manufacturing overheads is also given. Same way, variable administration overhead cost per unit is given, fixed administration overhead is given, variable selling and distribution overhead per unit is given, fixed selling and distribution overhead is also given, selling price per unit is given 35. All that we need to do is prepare income statement using absorption costing and using marginal costing, and also prepare the statement reconciling the difference in profit, if any. And that is not over, since it is a 10 marks question. More other things are asked. Calculate break-even point and margin of safety, and how many units are to be sold to earn a profit of 25% on cost. Very perfect question that can be asked in the examinations, which was asked also earlier for 10 marks. So such type of questions can be very well expected. So let us start solving this question by taking first absorption costing principles, which is nothing but normal costing that we do. I'm not giving the descriptions and all, only just numbers I'm going to indicate here. But in the examination, naturally you have to also write descriptions. Now, let us take sales first. Sales, particulars amount natural. Sales is how much? Actual number of units sold is 2,40,000 units, and selling price is 35 rupees. So 84 lakhs is the sales. Keep it aside. Then we need all the costs, and we are looking at absorption costing. Keep that in mind, absorption costing, that is. So in the absorption costing, we have to take all the costs including fixed manufacturing overheads. So let us take one by one what are all the items to be included in cost of production. So direct material cost, direct labor cost, variable overheads, which are manufacturing overheads, fixed manufacturing overheads also should be included in absorption costing method. So how many units are produced? Let us look at that. How many units are produced? 2,34,000 units are produced. So 2,34,000 into 6. What is the direct material cost then? 14 lakhs 4,000. And labor cost also will be 14 lakhs 4,000. Why? Because that is also 6 rupees per unit. Variable manufacturing overhead per unit is 3 rupees. So that means it will be half of that. That means 7 lakhs 2,000. Main thing is fixed manufacturing overheads. So fixed manufacturing overheads is something that will be absorbed on the basis of normal capacity. Like 12 lakhs rupees is the fixed manufacturing overheads. Normal capacity is 2,40,000. What is the predetermined rate of fixed manufacturing overhead? Absorption, right? Overheads are always absorbed. Incurred is different, absorbed is different. There will be difference. So 5 rupees per unit is the absorption rate for fixed manufacturing overheads. So 12 lakhs divided by 2,40,000 rupees of 2,40,000 units, which is normal capacity. That is 5 rupees per unit is the absorption rate of fixed overheads, manufacturing overheads, and the units produced are 2,34,000 units. So 234,000 into 5, 11,70,000 is going to be fixed overheads, which are absorbed fixed overheads. 11,70,000 rupees. How is that? 234,000 units manufactured into 5 rupees is the absorption rate, predetermined rate. 11,70,000 is the fixed manufacturing overheads incurred. So these are all the various inventoryable costs, we can say. Administration costs and all will come later, and let us not get into this eternal dilemma of should we include administration cost also in the cost of production or not. If nothing is given, don't include them. Just consider it as a non-inventoryable cost. If it is given that they are related to production, then include them. Otherwise, don't include them. So let us take only these things as cost of production. So 11,70,000 plus 7,02,000 plus 14,04,000 plus 14,04,000. Total is 46,80,000 is the cost of units produced. Cost of production, you can call it also, since there is no work in progress and all. Now, to this we have to add the value of opening stock and deduct the value of closing stock. How much will be the value of opening stock? Opening stock will be same. That is what? Here 6 rupees direct material cost, 6 rupees direct labor cost, 3 rupees variable manufacturing overhead per unit, plus 5 rupees, that is fixed overheads per unit. So 20 rupees is the inventoryable cost. 6 plus 6 plus 3 plus 5. So 20 rupees into how many units of opening stock is there? 52,000 units is there. So 20 into 52,000 means 10,40,000 is the value of opening stock, isn't it? That is 10,40,000. Now, what about the closing stock? Closing stock also is valued in the similar manner, wherein we have for total cost of 46,80,000 for how many units manufactured? 2,34,000. That means 20 rupees same into 46,000. That means 9,20,000 is the value of closing stock. 9,20,000. So add opening stock, deduct closing stock. That's what we do normally to get cost of goods sold. So 46,80,000 plus 10,40,000 minus 9,20,000. So 48 lakhs is that. Of course, that is before administration costs being added. Then you have to do this adjustment for all the other costs, like variable administration cost and fixed administration cost, variable selling and distribution overhead cost per unit, and fixed selling and distribution overheads cost. All of these things have to be added. So administration cost per unit is how much? Variable 0.8 into 2,34,000 only, because that is the number of units produced actually. So variable administration overhead per unit 0.8 into 2,34,000, 187,200. Add that. Then fixed Administration overheads 1,20,000, directly we can take that. Then variable selling and distribution overheads 2 rupees per unit sold, that is. So 2 into 240,000, 4,80,000 is variable. Selling and distribution overheads. Then fixed selling and distribution overheads are 2,40,000. So all these costs to be added. Once again, taking admin overheads, non-inventoryable. So 48 lakhs plus 187,200 plus 120 plus 480 plus 240, that comes to 58 lakhs 27,200. 58 lakhs 27,200. So that is the overall cost, we can say. But one point to be noted also here is there is a difference in the manufacturing overheads. Fixed manufacturing overheads are actually 12 lakhs, but how much we absorbed? We absorbed only 11 lakh 70,000. That means 30,000 is under absorbed. 30,000 when they are under absorbed, that has to be added now as an adjustment at the end. So 58 lakhs 57,200 is what is total cost, we can say, after considering every cost. Then what is the profit? We know the sales already, 84 lakhs minus 58 lakh 57,200, that will be 25 lakh. Profit is under absorption costing 25 lakhs 42,800. That is the profit under absorption costing. That's it. That is one thing that was asked in the question. Now moving on to profit under marginal costing. So how this will change? We can do actually side by side also, but in the exam you do it separately. Sales is going to be same, of course. Material cost, labor cost, variable overheads are going to be same. Fixed overheads are not at all taken here. So 14 lakh 4,000 plus 14 lakh 4,000 plus 7 lakh 2,000. So variable manufacturing cost will be how much? 35 lakhs 10,000. So under absorption cost, under marginal costing, 35 lakhs 10,000 is the variable manufacturing cost or cost of production, only variable. But for that we need to add opening stock and closing stock. Opening stock and closing stock also valued at variable cost only. So variable cost only will be how much? Once again 6 plus 6 plus 3. That means only 15 rupees. So 15 into opening stock 52,000. That comes to 7,80,000. Then 15 into closing stock 46,000. That comes to 6,90,000. Only variable cost we are taking, 6,90,000. So 35 lakhs 10,000 plus 780 minus 690 will be 36 lakhs. This is the variable cost, we can say, manufacturing cost. Sales is there, which is 84 lakhs. But to this, only variable costs and all we have to add. Only variable manufacturing overhead to be added. So 3 into 234,000, 7 lakh 2,000. We already know that. Only variable parts only we have to pick. We have to exactly pick that. What is the variable manufacturing overhead per unit? Sorry, not manufacturing. We need administration overhead. Manufacturing is all done. Administration overhead 0.8 into 234,000, that is 187,200. This one we have to pick here, 187,200. And variable selling and distribution overheads 2 rupees per unit sold. So 2 into 234, 2 into 240 units sold, that is. So that comes to 4,80,000. So from the same thing you can pick these two, 187 200, 480. So 187 200, 4,80,000. So this gives us total variable cost, including all manufacturing, admin plus selling and distribution. So 42,67,200. In marginal costing statement, we need one more additional presentation, that is contribution, which is nothing but sales minus total variable cost. Sales how much? 84 lakhs minus this all total variable cost is contribution 41,32,800. From this you have to deduct all types of fixed cost. Just take the actual numbers, that is enough. Absorption and all will not happen here. So 12 lakhs manufacturing, 120 fixed admin, 240 fixed selling and distribution. So 15,60,000 is the total fixed cost. 15,60,000 is the total fixed cost. So what is going to be the profit under marginal costing? 25,72,800. What was the profit under absorption costing? 25,42,800. What is the difference? 30,000 is the difference. 30,000 is the difference. Where from that 30,000 is coming? So that you can check from the stocks. Reconciliation can be done. So look at this reconciliation. Opening stock is 7,80,000 in case of marginal costing, and in case of absorption costing it was 10,40,000. So 1040 minus 780, it was 2,60,000 opening stock difference. Closing stock 920 in absorption costing, 690 in marginal costing. So 2,30,000. So 2,60,000 opening stock difference, which is more. Opening stock is more in absorption costing by 2,60,000, and closing stock is more in absorption costing by 2,30,000. So naturally, when opening stock is more than the closing stock, or difference in opening stock is more than the difference in closing stock, absorption costing was showing naturally the profit which was lesser, 25 lakhs. Sorry, yeah, opening stock is more. So 25 lakhs, 42,800 only absorption costing was showing, and marginal cost is showing higher profit, 25 lakh, 72,800. So marginal costing profit is more than absorption costing by 30,000. Why is that? Because closing stock is lesser by 30,000 than more opening stock difference. So when the opening stock is more, profit will be lesser. When closing stock is more, profit will be more. In this case, since the difference in opening stock is more than the difference in closing stock by 30,000, in absorption costing, naturally in both cases, whether it is opening stock or closing stock, absorption costing will always have higher stock valuation than marginal costing. Natural. Why? Because absorption costing includes fixed manufacturing overheads also. But the point is, which one is more than other? Is opening stock more than the closing stock, or closing stock more than the opening stock? In this case, opening stock is more than closing stock. So naturally what happens? Absorption costing will show lesser profit, marginal costing will show higher profit. What if the closing stock is more than opening stock? Then absorption costing will have more valuation of closing stock than the opening stock. So absorption costing will show more profit in that case. But here, since opening stock was 52,000 units, closing stock is only 46,000 units, that difference in the stocks of 30,000 is shown in the profit differences also between two methods of costing, that is 30,000. So absorption costing calculation, marginal costing calculation, statement reconciling the difference in profit, you can prepare by taking each of them and showing that. So let us say absorption costing profit we will start with 2542 800 plus 260 minus 230. That gives marginal costing profit. That will be naturally 25 lakhs 72,800. That is how this absorption costing, marginal costing statements of profit have to be prepared, and difference has to be definitely calculated, and always difference is only one. There is no multiple differences, only one. What is that? Stocks. Imagine if there are no stocks, no difference. Imagine if the stocks are same, opening stock, closing stock are same, still there no difference. Only difference comes when whether closing stock is more than opening stock or opening stock is more than closing stock, where the profits will be higher. If the closing stock is more than opening stock, absorption costing will have more profit. If opening stock is more than closing stock, marginal costing will show more profit. That's the application of concept of distinction between absorption costing and marginal costing. And other questions I think you can solve directly. Break-even point and margin of safety, how can you find out? Break-even point is what? Simply fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. That can be found out. Margin of safety can be found out, which is nothing but total sales minus break-even sales, that you can find out from the data. How many units to be sold to earn a profit of 25% on cost? That also you can do using the data that is available on the basis of actuals. So those two things you do it on your own. Nothing special to once again explain. Those are known things already. But difference between marginal costing and absorption costing is to be applied in this way. That is the question which was given in earlier exams. Now look at this question which was given in the ICA material also. Wonder Limited manufactures a single product Just. The following figures relate to Just for a 1 year period. If the activity level is 50% and if the activity level is 100%, what will be the sales and production in units? Units, that is given as 400 units and 800 units, that is. But sales are given in rupees also, 8 lakhs and 16 lakhs. Naturally they will be doubled because the capacity also doubled. Variable cost will double naturally because they will change in the same line. Fixed cost will not change because it will be same irrespective of the level of activity, very clear. Selling and distribution cost also variable and fixed. Variable doubled because it is production doubled or capacity doubled at a different level of activity, we can say. Fixed cost remains the same. So data is very simple and straightforward given at two different levels of activity. The normal level of activity for the year is 800 units. That is the normal level of activity, 800 units. Fixed costs are incurred evenly throughout the year. That is always a normal assumption that we take. Without that, many calculations will go wrong because we have to take fixed costs proportionately on the basis of time. There is no option. And actual fixed costs are the same as budgeted. So actual fixed cost and budgeted fixed costs are same. There were no stocks of Just at the beginning of the year, means no opening stock. There is no opening stock. Only closing stock is there, if it is there. Now in the first quarter, once again, read the question carefully. This entire 800 units is for what? Activity level for the year. But here what is telling? Only first quarter. 220 units are produced, 160 are sold. That means how much is closing stock? 60 units is closing stock. That is evident from the data that is given. Now what is required is, what would be the fixed production cost absorbed by Just if absorption costing is used? Fixed production cost, how much will be absorbed is asking. It's a straightforward thing. Production fixed cost 1,60,000 is the total. Normal capacity is how much? 800 units. Per unit, what is the absorption rate, you can say, overhead rate per unit is 200, isn't it? 160 by 800 is 200. But how many units are actually manufactured? 220 in the quarter. That means absorbed fixed overheads are how much? Naturally 220 into 200, that comes to 44,000 rupees. That's the answer for first question. Second question, what would be the under or over recovery of overheads during the period? How do we know that? Because this is absorbed. What is actual? He said as budgeted only it is actual. What was budgeted? 1,60,000 for the entire year. If 1,60,000 for entire year, for 1 quarter how much will that be? Divided by 4. That means 40,000. Which means, is there over absorption or under absorption? Absorbed is more than actual. That means 4,000 rupees over absorption of fixed overheads is there according to this data. That was the question B. Then question C, what is the profit using absorption costing and what is the profit using marginal costing? That is also asked. So for that you have to prepare the statements. naturally to show what is the profit under each of these methods, both absorption costing as well as marginal costing. So let us take absorption costing first. Sales, actual sales during the quarter are how many? 160 units are sold at what price? If 16 lakhs sales happen for 800, selling price will be how much? 2000 naturally, no? Isn't it? 2000. So 2000 into per unit 2000 into how many units are sold actually? 160 units are sold. That means sales is 3,20,000. So each of the calculations we have to do. Sales 3,20,000. Now we are using absorption costing. So let us take the costs one by one. What are all the things to be taken here? All things, including variable and fixed production costs we have to take. So per unit, how much will be the variable production costs? That can be found out by taking any level of activity. So 320 by 400, 800, or 640 by 800, 800, whatever it is. So variable production cost per unit is 800. So 800 into what? How many units are produced? 220 units are produced. That means 1,76,000 is the variable production cost, not just overheads, all of them, all costs, variable production costs. 1,76,000. Fixed production costs, that we already calculated. How? That is there absorbed, 220 into 200, 44,000. That is there, 44,000. So what is the total production cost? 176 plus 44,000 means 2,20,000 for how many units? 220 units. But how many units are there in stock, closing stock? There are 60 units. So if 220,000 is for 220 units, how much will be for 60 units? Naturally 60,000. No opening stock. So only deduct closing stock. So 220 minus 60 will be 1,60,000. Cost of goods sold, we can say. Then add variable selling and distribution cost and fixed selling and distribution cost. Fixed anyway is there 2,40,000. That is not going to change. Variable selling and distribution cost will be per unit how much? That again you have to calculate. 320,000 divided by 800. Per unit it is 400. How many units are sold? Only 160 units are sold. So 64,000 is the variable selling and distribution costs. Add this cost also to this. So 160 plus 240 plus 64. 4,64,000 rupees is the total cost. And how much are sales? What is it? Why this much difference? Sales are 3,20,000 only. Sorry. Here we are gone wrong. This is for year, no? 2,40,000 is wrong, no? Naturally, it will be shown. 2,40,000 is for year. We cannot take that. 240 for year means each quarter how much will that be? 60,000. Be careful. Not 2,40,000. 60,000 only. We are only looking at one quarter. So how much is the cost now? 160 plus 60 plus 64. That is the total cost. 2,84,000. That is the total cost. Then sales 3,20,000 means profit under absorption costing is how much? 36,000. That is the first method under which we calculate profit. Of course, you have to show these things in a better presented manner in the examinations, writing the details. Now, what is the profit under marginal costing? Let us see that also. Sales will be same. That is 3,20,000 obviously. Sales 3,20,000 is not going to change. But main point is here about the variable production costs only, that will be taken 1,76,000. And 1,76,000 is there variable. Fixed do we take here? No, we don't, because it is marginal cost. But you have to deduct closing stock definitely. If 1,76,000 is the variable production cost for how many units? 220 units, naturally. 800 per unit. How much will be for 60 units? That means 48,000 is the closing stock under marginal cost. Only taking variable costs, variable production costs. So 176 minus 48 means 1,28,000 rupees is the, we can call it production contribution, though we don't have to give any name for it, but let us call it production contribution. From that deduct other variable costs like selling and distribution cost. Variable selling and distribution costs are how much? We already calculated earlier. Variable selling and distribution costs are 64,000. That will be same, 64,000. So what is going to be the contribution now? 128 minus 64,000. 64,000 is going to be the total contribution. Then from that you have to deduct the fixed costs. So what are the fixed costs here? Fixed costs are two. One is fixed manufacturing costs and the second one is fixed selling and distribution costs. Both of them put together 160 plus 320. For entire year they are 480. For each quarter it will be 1,20,000. So 1,20,000. I think somewhere calculations went wrong. 176 minus 48 is 128. That is okay. Where we? Okay. Unnecessarily we are doing this cost. This one created everything. So this is cost separately. Keep the sales separately. Keep the sales separately. 176,000 is the variable cost. Deduct closing stock and try to get variable cost. 128 plus this is wrong. This is not contribution at all. This is 128 is cost. How can it be contribution? So 128 plus 64,000 is variable. Total variable cost we can say. If at all we want contribution, that can be shown separately like this. 192 separate minus 320. That is 1,28,000 is the contribution. Correct. So 1,28,000 contribution, if at all it is 320 minus 192, 1,28,000. So how 192? 176 minus 48 plus 64,000. Correct. So 128 is contribution minus fixed cost. How much? Both production and this selling and distribution put together per each quarter. That came out to be how much? Fixed 160 plus 244. 160 plus 240. 4 lakhs divided by 4. That means 1 lakh fixed cost. Correct. 1 lakh is the fixed cost per quarter. 1,20,000 is also wrong. 1 lakh is the fixed cost per quarter. So 28,000 is the profit as per marginal cost. That's it. So profit as per absorption costing is 36,000. Profit as per marginal costing is 28,000. That is the correct one. Be careful with this. Sales you have to keep separately. Don't mix that with the costs. Costs, all the costs once you calculate, then only you calculate the contribution and other things. So here, variable production cost minus closing stock plus variable selling and distribution cost will give us total variable cost. If you deduct this from sales, you get contribution 128. Deduct fixed cost, you get profit of 28,000. Profit under absorption costing was 36,000. Isn't it? 28 and 36. I think one thing. Now here one more adjustment to be done, right? Because after the calculation of all this cost, so there is a over absorption of fixed overheads here at 44,000, which we already calculated, 4,000 over absorption. So that should be reduced from the cost actually. So 284,000 will not be the cost. If you reduce that 4,000 also from here, naturally it will be 280. This adjustment should not be forgotten also. Then naturally profit will be 40,000 under absorption costing, not 36,000. Because there was over absorption of fixed cost, that adjustment has to be done before calculating profit at least, at the last step. So profit is 40,000 under absorption costing and 28,000 under marginal costing. We can see that. How do we know that there was a mistake? Easy. When you look at the stock figures, in absorption costing it is always higher. It was 60. In marginal costing it was 48. And what is the difference? 12,000. That 12,000 only should show. So profit under absorption costing is more by 12,000 than profit under marginal costing, exactly because of the difference of 12,000 valuation in the closing stock, which will be always more in absorption costing. Since there are no opening stocks here, only absorption costing is having more closing stocks value than the marginal costing stock valuation by 12,000. That difference of 12,000 is shown in profits also. So these are the points to be noted while calculating profits under two different methods, marginal costing as well as absorption costing. Practice them on paper as many number of times as possible. There is one more question also for practice in the essay material which you can do related to this computation of profit under absorption costing and marginal costing. So that type of question can be also very well expected, and as I said, it is generally the surprise element that ICAI keeps it with itself, and if that is shown and shooted against us, you cannot say that I just ignored this aspect and all. No, it is simple, but you have to be careful naturally in the calculations, looking and using the concept of taking total production costs including fixed manufacturing overheads also under absorption costing, whereas taking only variable manufacturing overheads under marginal costing. Using these formats, you can present them well, but presentation will come only with good practice. You can solve this question quickly, accurately, and present it well only when you put pen on paper. So while you do practice of these questions, use full forms of description and try to prepare and present as if you are presenting in the main examination. So these type of questions also can be expected from this particular chapter, marginal costing. With that, we can conclude this chapter of marginal costing, and in next another session we'll continue to some other topic. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.